Hi there, and thanks for joining me for another tutorial. I'm Erin Eno, and today we're going to have fun painting this super abstract landscape with gold accents. So let's just jump in and get painting. To start, I'll just run through everything I'm going to use today. I am going to be painting this on a sheet that I took out of my Strathmore visual journal, which I believe is their 400 series paper. Anyway, I've trimmed it down to roughly 7.5, 9.5. It's 140-pound paper, but it is non-cotton. It's a cellulose paper. I have my Royal Talons Van Gogh paints in my palette, a jar of water and a paper towel, and for brushes, I have two Princeton snap rounds, one in a 12 and one in a size 10. I may just use one of them, I don't know, I haven't decided. I also have a Raphael Precision liner in a size 2. If you don't have a liner brush, just use the smallest brush you have. I just want to use a liner brush because you get more mileage out of a brush stroke than you do with just like a shorter brush. I'm also going to be using my beat up craft brush. I highly suggest that you do have one of these in your kind of arsenal of brushes. They come in quite handy. You can get a lot of neat effects from them. So anyway, it's just got short, really stiff beat up bristles, as you can see. And you will also need a spray bottle of water because we're going to be spritzing our paper. And you will also need a gold metallic pen, or you can use gold metallic paint. I'm using my Uniball Signo gold metallic pen for this, but that's not till later, so we'll just put that aside. So I'm just going to start with, I think, my number 12. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with just throwing down some color, okay? And I'm going to do this with primarily indigo, black, sepia, and yellow ochre. Those are, I think, the only colors I'm going to be using. So I'm going to start with some indigo, which is very vibrant. So I'm just going to start laying down color, okay? And we're just laying down color and going to kind of spritz it and let it all run together. So it doesn't matter where I put it. I'm just going to kind of let the paint do its thing. I want a lot of color in here. And I'm not doing like an exact horizon line here. This is really abstract, so it's just going to be kind of doing what it wants to do. I didn't even really necessarily want to go to the edge there, but anyway, it's done now. That's okay. So I'm going to rinse off my brush, and I'm going to take some sepia now and throw some of that in there. Throw some sepia here. Maybe some washed out sepia over here. And maybe we'll go in and get some black. Now I'm using a non-granulating black. I do have a granulating black. I don't think it would matter which one you use. So throw some black down there and maybe some yellow ochre now. Just tap that in. You're just putting it wherever. Okay, and then we're going to turn our paper and turn it upside down. Actually, I shouldn't leave my brush in my water like that. My bad. And I'm going to turn my paper. Sorry, you do need to take this to a board for this reason. I forgot to mention that. And I'm just going to tilt it and spritz. Just like that. And you can kind of just turn it, let it run. You can start adding in some more paint at this point if you want. Tap in some blue there, some indigo there, maybe a little more indigo. So I'm just going to let this run all along the sheet. And if it's got too much water, just tap your brush. Whoops. Sorry, I'm probably out of the camera view there. Just tap your brush on your paper towel and sop up some of that extra water if you find it's just getting out of hand. You can drag some down. Tilt it back this way. So you're just playing around and letting it kind of just form whatever shapes it's going to form. Totally abstract, just like crazy. So I do want some lighter colors at the top, so I think what I will do is get a little bit of that sepia, not too much, and just kind of bring that down, kind of push it out, or pull it down rather, just to nothing. Maybe have some bleed out the side a bit. You're just going crazy, okay, until you get just kind of a funky looking background. And I'm going to just kind of soften this edge out a bit. But I don't want to manipulate it too much. I kind of want it just to do what it wants to do. Take some more sepia, tap some in there, just adding color and just playing around while it's still wet. Take a little more indigo maybe, put some indigo up here, that was a little wet, up here like that. These can be kind of like little mountain shapes maybe. Whoops, get more indigo on my brush than that. You can even just put some sideways swipes in there. Throw some more sepia on that. I'm just going to leave the bottom rough. I'm not doing like a little, like a perfect horizon line or anything. It's just going to be rough and random. Okay, again, just tapping in paint wherever and letting it bleed out. And everything you put down is going to dry a little lighter. So if you want your areas really dark, you're going to have to go in and just keep adding in more really kind of thick paint. Okay, I'm going to throw some black in down here, just to make sure that's nice and dark. Go in with some more yellow ochre, have it touch that black there. Tap some in over here. You just get to go crazy. This is just fun and relaxing to do, and you never know what you're going to end up with. If you find it's getting too dark, you can even go in and just pick some paint up if you want, just like that. It's pooling a bit there. I don't want to wait forever for it to dry, so I'll just pick some of that up. So just, you know, play around with it. Put paint down, pick it up, move it around. Just see what you end up with. Just let the paint kind of run the show here. Soften that edge. go in with a little more indigo maybe in here. Now it is wet, but this is really thick, the indigo. I'm using like almost straight pigment right out of the paint well, so it won't blend. It won't bleed into that wet area as much as it would if it was watered down. I don't know if I like that. I'm just gonna kind of blend that out a bit. But really, there's no rules here. I'm gonna take a little bit of sepia and a little bit of indigo to get this kind of bluish, browny gray color. Okay, and I'm just kind of making it look like maybe like a mountain top. Who knows? And it just looks like a mess. But it's going to bleed out, and we're going to see what we're left with. A little more sepia there. Okay, so I do want this to dry lighter. I mean, it should. I'm just going to put a little bit more blue in here. So really, I'm just kind of being silly with my paint here. Okay, and you just do whatever. A little bit more blue. I want to speed this up with my heat tool for you, so we're not sitting here waiting for this to dry. The only unfortunate thing with that is that the bleeds aren't going to finish. I'm going to end up like kind of drying the bleeds before they get to bleed all the way out, which is okay as long as you like it at that level. Otherwise, just let it kind of finish continuing to bleed and let it dry on its own. I've got a couple of weird holes in the paper here. There we go. Add a little bit more yellow ochre down there. So what was I saying? Yeah, so if you let it bleed out on its own, you're obviously going to let it travel and it will bleed out further. I'm just going to soften this edge a bit. So I'm just taking my damp brush and just picking that paint up. I kind of like that little bloom there. That's kind of cool. I'm going to be using my heat tool, like I said, so it'll be a little bit of a shame to stop that, but we'll see. It's abstract, so really it doesn't matter. It might be a little heavy through here. I want to make sure there's enough yellow in here to keep it not too gloomy. Okay. So just play around. And I think I'm going to leave this. I don't want to overwork it and get carried away. So I will speed this up with my heat tool. And by the way, if you're looking for a fairly inexpensive heat tool, this one has turned out to be pretty decent. I'm quite happy with it. So I will put a link to this in my description box below. But it really was inexpensive, and I got it because it had the 2 speeds. So when something is really wet like this, I don't want to blow the paint around. I just want to dry it, so I'm going to do this on low speed and hold it a little further away, okay? Okay, so now this is fairly dry. It's dry enough for what we need, and I think maybe when I started this I said I was going to use my size 12. I didn't. I was using my size 10. So now we just need to do some trees, and I'm just going to I'm going to put black in my well here. I usually don't put black in this well, but I just want it kind of handy. And I'm going to use my liner brush. So, whoops, oh, that would have been really nice to get some black splattered on there. Okay, so as I mentioned before, if you don't have a liner brush, you can use any really fine brush you have. It's just with a liner brush, because it's longer, it holds more paint, so you don't have to keep going back into your paint as much. So I think I'm going to do 2 trees. I did a painting like this a while back, so I'm trying to recreate that. So I had 2 trees, one here that's more in the foreground, and I'm using, this is still a little damp, but it's not going to bleed because the paint is fairly thick. So I'm going to start with a tree here, and I'm probably going to turn my paper a bit when I do this, okay? Just because it's easier. So we're just going to do squiggly branches. If you don't have a liner brush, I recommend getting one if you're going to do landscapes and, you know, trees and stuff like that there. They're really handy because you can see how far you can go with just one dip of paint. It's way further than if you were to use like a number 1 or a number 0, and you get a nice, really fine line. I'm going to speed this up because I don't want to have you get bored watching me paint a bunch of branches. So I will speed this up, and I'm going to do a tree over there as well. Okay, so now that the trees and the branches are all in place, I'm going to go to my beat up craft brush, and I'm going to go in and use it dry, and I'm just going to tap into that black paint, and I'm just going to lightly put some little dots for leaves. And when you do this, because this is kind of a flat brush, I'm going to turn it every so often, okay, so I'm not getting the same kind of pattern on every branch. And put some in the middle as well. So I'm just holding it upright and just kind of stamping on these little dots of leaves. I'm not filling it completely, just enough to give the impression. I don't want to fill it all in. I think I'll leave it at that for now. And then I'll go and do this guy here. I'm going to try to be a little heavier handed with this tree because it is in the foreground. Not by heavier handed, I don't mean more leaves, I just mean I'm going to push down a little more so I get bigger kind of dots for the leaves. I hope that makes sense. I think that's enough. So I'm just going to rinse off my brush, and then I'm going to dry it completely with my heat tool, because everything has to be completely dry before we go on and use the metallic pen. Okay, everything seems good and dry now, so we can go in safely with our gold pen. And what I want to do is just kind of outline roughly, but some, like where there would be some land shapes, you know, some land masses, just to differentiate this. So we just get to basically go in and doodle now. So you can just pick any kind of shapes that you kind of see, okay, and just kind of draw these outlines in, just like that. Okay, so I kind of see something here. You can just go wherever you want. Something here maybe. So you're basically just gonna doodle. Maybe something here. And I kind of see this as a sun. I did a sun kind of on my original one, and I colored it all in. I don't know if I'm gonna do that with this. I think I'm just going to outline it. And I'm not going to outline like those mountain tops back there. I just want to do some stuff at the front. Okay, so just like that. Maybe I will color in the sun. I don't know. Now I'm going to do some outlines on the trees. And you can just follow some of the branches, not all of them. Just a few, just to give it some interest. Maybe do this one here. I'm not going to do the leaves either. I'm just doing the branches. Okay, so just kind of rough. I'm trying not to go back over and make the lines all sketchy. Okay, but I do find that if I just kind of flick this pen, you get a nice kind of point at the end. I don't want like a blunt end at the end of all the kind of branches that I'm doing. Now I'll do this guy here. I hope this isn't wet. I don't want to stick my hand in wet gold. So I think I am going to color in that sun, because I think it really kind of gave the painting a little something. But this is going to take a while, so I'm going to fast forward it here. Okay, so that took a bit of time and used a lot of ink. I could have gone in with some gold watercolor, but I just wasn't sure if I would be able to match the gold exactly, so I just used my pen. So now let's just take the tape off and see what it looks like. And there you go. There is our abstract landscape with metallic gold accents. I hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial and that you found it helpful, and I hope you'll give this a try. And if you do and you're on Instagram, be sure to share and tag me so I can have a look, as always. So that's it for today. Thanks for joining me, and I will see you next time.